Valerie Cantella, huge fan of Scrivener. I'm using Scrivener 3 on a Mac, and so happy to answer your questions as we go along the presentation. A few of them I will say, hey, let's hold that one till the end, because I'm working in a presentation mode right now, which doesn't allow me to show you my live Scrivener files, but I'm happy to show you that at the end so we can actually navigate to different places. So this, if you haven't used Scrivener before, this is what happens when you open a nonfiction format manuscript on Scrivener. On the left hand, you'll see three basic sections: the left hand side, the middle section, and the right hand side, and I'll walk through each of those for you. This is the toolbar view at the top, and we're going to go through that from left to right. So you'll see on the far left, there's a view screen, and it gives you the opportunity to hide the binder, show collections, and I actually have not used collections, hide the format bar, show ruler. It's pretty typical layout to Microsoft Word. I'm going to go back for a second. On the left-hand side, you'll see in the green bar, that is the binder, the manuscript forward chapter. It's what holds all of your information and your documents. The middle screen is your writing screen, and then the right screen is called the inspector. So I'll go through those three. This is the binder, which I think is one of the best parts of Scrivener, because it's the way you can arrange sections, chapters, folders, or ideas. And then within each folder, you can have, I call them scenes because I'm writing a memoir. And so I have different scenes that are part of that, but you have different text files. And the way that translates when you export your manuscript is it shows either section breaks between those individual text files, or a hashtag mark, or some other mark that you've defined. But the beautiful part is you can move those text files between chapters really easily. And when you're early in the writing phase, I don't know about you, but when I was starting my writing, I had a whole bunch of material, blogs and journals from different places, and I just imported them and started arranging them. I first arranged them chronologically, but then I have moved them throughout the process. Oh, I want to put that scene here because I want to look back on that. So it's really easy, and it's drag and drop to move things. The other thing I'll note here is you can see that some of my folders have custom icons, like the light bulb, and then a kind of a chalkboard screen and a cloud. And I use those to help me remember what I need to do in that chapter. So for example, the light bulbs, I needed to refine some of the ideas in there. The clouds are the chapters that I am still writing on, kind of in a second draft format. And then the chalkboards are the ones that I submitted with my Hay House proposal in June. So let me stop there and just see if anyone has any questions before I go forward.
So do you put, say, if I was referencing something on the internet, would I put like the internet address in that chapter and leave it at the bottom there, or do I make a new section somewhere for where these references are?
So there is a way to use a citation product, and because of the way my manuscript is set up, I don't have citations within the chapters, but at the end of the manuscript, and I can show you this when we're in my native file, I have a acknowledgements and copyright, or excuse me, citation section. And so I have the quotes referenced in that area. So you can do it a number of different ways. And it depends really on what type of book you're writing.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, and just so you know, Scrivener offers a number of different templates, including nonfiction, fiction, and I believe technical journals. And so they will pre-set up something that you can then modify. And one of those might have a citations section in it. I'm just not personally familiar with it. So then when you're in the view find the toolbar, the view bar, you can also hover on this gray box up at the top where it says nonfiction format, and it will tell you statistics for your project. So mine will say something like you have 49,000 words. And I just think that's cool because I like to see how I'm doing, how much I've edited, just where I'm at. So I did want to note that these items on the toolbar can also be reached through the menus. These are just shortcuts to make it quicker for you to navigate. So with almost all of Scrivener, there are multiple ways to get to where you need to go. So on the search bar, this is one of my favorite features. You can search in the project, which means your whole manuscript, or you can search in the document. And I don't know about you, but I use some phrases that are somewhat like mantras to me, and I want to see how many times I've used them. So I will type in a phrase to search in the project, and I think, oh, I've used it 6 times. I want to delete 2 of those times, or I like the way I said it here. I didn't like that as much. So it's a great way to check that, or if you're checking to make sure you've spelled something consistently, you can find it here. This add button is also helpful because you can add either a new text or a new folder really easily, and then move that around within your manuscript. So do we have any other questions so far? Okay, I'm going to go this one, the tools and the quick reference. I've never used either of those icons because I delete my files and folders in a different way. And I actually, when I was testing this the other day, I didn't like how the trash worked because I didn't feel like I had a good handle on what I was deleting. So I would recommend not using this unless you absolutely know what file you're deleting by pushing that button. So the insert, this is a great feature where you can insert an image from a file. You can insert an image link to a file, add comments, footnotes, links, tables. So I think actually, Zena, I think it was Zena that asked that question. This is where you could add a footnote for a citation. I also use this for my Hay House proposal, and I used this icon to insert an image, which had my picture for my biography. So that's another way you can use that. If you go over here to view mode, this is a really important feature of Scrivener because it allows you to see your information in a couple different ways. And I'll walk you through that in just a minute. But I do want to encourage you, if you're starting from scratch, I would just work in composition mode, which is writing mode, unless you want to set up an outline. So for some people, you're writing a teaching memoir or teaching nonfiction book, and you may want to set up an outline first, which is great. But if you just want to get writing first and then worry about the view mode. So here we go. View modes are different ways to look at your content. So the icon on the left is the compose mode that shows you 2 different pieces of paper. The middle is the corkboard and the right is the outliner. So when you're in your whole binder overall manuscript, this is what the compose mode looks like. You can see in the middle, it has a couple of quotes, and then it has the dashed line, which indicates a folder break, and then another dashed line, and then it has my forward. And so that's what you would see if you were in compose mode in the binder. I'm going to stop there for a second just to see if anyone has any questions.
I do. Can you hear me?
Sure, yes.
Okay. So in this mode that you're showing right now, is that your entire manuscript, and then it shows the page breaks or folder breaks in between?
Yes, so this is the whole manuscript, and I don't normally look at it in the manuscript mode. You can see where it is blue on the right side, the dark blue, where it highlights Dollhouse manuscript.
Right.
So this is the whole thing. In a minute, I'll show you what it looks like within a folder file for the overall manuscript for that folder.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Quick question.
Sure.
The menu on the side shows chapters. I'm editing someone's book right now and they've decided to use Article 1, Article 2. Can we adapt that or does it matter?
It doesn't matter. It's really whatever you want to name them. It's just for Scrivener's purposes, they're just folders, but they can be sections, parts, whatever works for your manuscript or the manuscript you're editing.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Yes, of course. So then this is the corkboard mode. And this, I have not customized this very much. It didn't, where I was in my manuscript when I imported it to Scrivener, it didn't make sense for me to customize it a lot at the manuscript level, but when we get to my folder level, you'll see a lot more. But the cool thing about this is for me, I find it more helpful in the folder level where you can just move those cards around and reorder things. And it's kind of like as if you were outlining on a corkboard at home. And you can customize everything in Scrivener pretty much. I can customize the background colors, the colors of my individual cards, how the corkboard looks, the texture. I mean, you can get really deep into customizing it for your use, but I recommend customizing as much as it's useful for you, unless you have oodles of time and nothing better to do. And then this is the outline mode, which is one of my favorite modes because you can see my whole manuscript in a nutshell here. So you can see the foreword, the prologue, the status bar, which is something I'll show you in a minute in the inspector panel, this type of section, and the total word count. And additionally, you can customize this as well. So I'm going to show you tags in a few minutes, and you can add tags by characters or topics. There are a number of different features that you can add to this screen. And I will show it to you in my live version if someone reminds me to go back to this at the end. But it's really cool if you're trying to figure out, oh, are my chapters pretty consistent in their length? And for me, I use the status bar for my editing purposes. So I know, oh, I've revised all of these after CW has read it, or I need to work on this, or I've run it through Pro Writing Aid for the fourth time, or wherever you are, however you want to use that status bar. So within the folder menu, this is what the corkboard, I wrote outline mode, but it's really the corkboard mode. So you can see the beginning sentences of the different scenes that I've written, and I could move these around and make them in a different order. I don't use it that much, but it's kind of a cool feature. Does anyone have a question on this one?
I'm not quite sure how you access that in the, like each chapter you can go to this and then each paragraph will be highlighted. Is that how it works?
Well, each text file will be highlighted. So I will show it to you in my live version so you'll be able to see me clicking around. But when you're in the binder, you can click on either the outline, composition, or corkboard icon, and it will change the view for that section of your manuscript.
Okay, thank you.
But remind me in a few minutes and I'll show it to you in the live version.
Okay.
So this is what composition mode looks like when you just want basically like a Word document file. You just keep typing, and this is how I spend most of my time in Scrivener, in the composition mode. And this is the outline mode as opposed to what I just showed you earlier. So this is how within the folder, you can see the beginning sentences of every text file, the status, it's a section, and the total words. So I find that one of the most useful features of Scrivener because I can see an overall picture and then I can see a micro-targeted picture of my manuscript. So the other icons they have compile, bookmarks, and compose. I don't really use those. I access them through the menu, but I will show you compose in another screen in just a minute. And then the inspector is another mode that I would highly recommend getting to use. And I think, Zena, you asked me about view mode. And so if you look over about 4 spaces to the left where you have view mode, you would just click on one of those icons to tell you which mode you were looking at your manuscript in.
Okay, thank you.
But I will show you in the live version. So the inspector has 5 different icons, which you can see right now. They're the text file with words in it, which is the synopsis. The next one is the bookmarks, then the label, the snapshots, and the notes. So I don't actually use the synopsis, but some people would use that for writing a few sentences about what that either chapter or that text file might include. The bookmarks I also don't use, but if you needed to bookmark something to go back to, for example, say you needed to look up a detail of what does Austria look like in the middle of winter at this altitude, you could mark yourself, make a note there, a bookmark or a note to remind yourself to look something up. One of the cool features of the toolbar is they have this label feature, which you can see the arrow pointing down to the right. I have different labels named Valerie, Paul, Katie, Nick, Tom, Mom, and Dad. And you can edit these to be the number 1, 2, 3, 4, different topics, meditation, cards. I don't know what you would do, but you can make it whatever you would want. I happen to have it for characters in the book. I could have done it for themes in the book, like perfectionism, codependency, special needs parenting, any number of things. But what's cool about that is right below that file, you'll see where it says no label. I could label this section or this text file to say Valerie. And so then when I'm in my outline mode, I can show all of the labels for all of my files to see, oh, I talked about this character in this chapter. I want to talk about them there, or the pacing isn't correct. So this has a lot of possibilities. I'm going to stop there because it may be a little bit confusing looking at it in this static version as opposed to in my native file. But does anyone have any questions? Okay. So I will show you labels in the native file as well. Snapshots. That is how you basically take a picture of your document before you make changes. And I'll show you that in the next few slides. And then notes, you wanted to write notes to yourself of things you wanted to remember to do to this text file or folder. So the snapshots are one of my very favorite features. Like I said, it's the camera icon, which you take a picture of your document and then you have basically a saved file of that text file. And then you start editing. And if you decide you don't like that version, you can roll it back to a previous version. So you can see on my right side, it says snapshots. I could click on that compare button to compare the 2:13:21 file with my current file. And I'll show you what that looks like. So this is a snapshot comparison snapshot actually. So on the left side, you'll see the current text. And on the right side, I clicked compare to compare it to the May 10th file. And the May 10th file is the one that has the blue and red marks. And Diane, I saw your hand, so go ahead and ask your question.
Thank you. Do snapshots happen automatically, or do you have to hit a button saying, I want a snapshot?
Yeah, so what you have to hit a button, but let me add the caveat of you can set up Scrivener to do obviously automatic backups. So you have a backup file, but if you are working in a specific text file and you want to be able to see this type of micro editing version or a previous version, you have to actually take a snapshot. And when you click the button, it actually sounds like a camera.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. So for this one, I only took one snapshot, but you can see all of the changes. And if I wanted to, I could click the rollback button on the top right, and it would roll it back to this version. So instead of like, if you were working in Microsoft Word, you'd have to save your file and then you'd have to save it with another name. And then you could do compare documents, but this is a way for you to compare your documents within the same file.
If you roll back, does it erase the one on the left then? Or,
It overwrites it. So this is why if I think I'm going to edit something and I want, if there's any possibility I'm going to want back what I just did, I take a snapshot first as soon as I open the file. Because you can have unlimited snapshots.
good idea.
So it's really super helpful.
Mhm.
Karen, did you have a question?
Val, are we taking snapshots within like the various folders, or is it like a snapshot of the entire project?
No, you have to do it within various folders or text
Okay.
files. Yeah.
Okay.
So I'll show it to you in just a minute in the live version. So obviously backups are super important to us as writers. We don't want to lose any of our precious work because we put so much time and energy into it. And this shows you the path to setting up automatic backups. So if you go to the top of the screen, there's a Scrivener name folder, and then you go down to preferences. On startup, you go over to the far right, it says backup. When you're on the backup file, it gives you all these options. And so I have it back up at the project close. I back it up every time I manually save it. I have it defaulted to backup before syncing with mobile device, but I don't use it on a mobile device because I can't imagine trying to use Scrivener on my phone. It does compress the backups as zip files. It uses the date so I can tell when it was backed up. And I only have it keep my 5 most recent backups. But it's a great way. You definitely want to back up your files, have the automatic backup set up. And I think it defaults to automatic backup. You also have the option to do a manual backup. So if you are, again, in the top menu, you go to File, Export, and you can export files, OPML files, which I'm not even sure what that means, or as a Scrivener 2 project. It then gives you the middle option to save it as a section, or I usually do the date and then underscore dollhouse manuscript, or if I'm saving a specific chapter, I put the chapter name in. And then the third box shows you all the different types of ways you can save the file. So I tend to save mine in Microsoft Word because I feel like if my Scrivener software ever got corrupted or something happened, Word would be the easiest way for me to import it either back into Scrivener or to continue to work with it. So I'm going to pause for a second and see if there are questions.
Yes, I have a question. So is it all housed on a cloud? So if I access my Scrivener account from various computers, I can get to the same files?
So my understanding is that it is not. The Scrivener version I have on my computer is on my computer. The backup is on my computer, but I think there's a way to have it back up to Dropbox. But the beautiful thing about Scrivener is you can, once you buy it, you can use it on multiple computers. So I happen to have it on my work computer and then my personal work computer. And so if I needed to work on either computer, I have access to it as long as I've sent the Scrivener file to myself. So that's the caveat. It's not a cloud backup, which doesn't make it easy to write in multiple places, but I believe there is an option to do that.
Does Scrivener work with Grammarly?
So Scrivener does not integrate with Grammarly, but what I was initially doing with Grammarly was I was copying the file, just, cut and paste from Grammarly into Word, or excuse me, from Scrivener into Word and editing it in Grammarly and then pasting it back into Scrivener.
Okay.
And then I found Pro Writing Aid, which integrates with Scrivener so that I can open my Pro Writing Aid file, and whatever changes I make in Pro Writing Aid, it automatically saves it back to Scrivener. Pro Writing Aid, if you aren't familiar with it, is an amazing tool. It's Grammarly on steroids, and I would highly recommend checking it out. And I do in the survey, if you at the end fill out the survey and are interested, there's a box you can check if you're interested in doing a workshop like this on Pro Writing Aid. I'd be happy to show you how I use Pro Writing Aid and some of the features. It's far more simple than Scrivener, but it is amazing. And I actually bought a lifetime subscription because I find it so useful in my writing life, but also in my professional life. So that's my plug for Pro Writing Aid. Okay, one more way to do backups. You can, well, this isn't really a backup, but it's another way to have a whole version of your manuscript. So compile, let me back up a second. I believe Scrivener was intended to help authors be able to export their files to finished products, meaning I can compile my document, I can create an EPUB file, I can upload it to Amazon and have my book on Amazon pretty seamlessly. Now, I say that that is what I believe they did. I don't know if it's that simple because I haven't actually done it. But compile is a screen that's at the bottom of the file menu. And when you get into compile, it gives you all these different project formats that you can then export to from your manuscript. So I know this one's a little bit small, but you can export it to a manuscript in Courier, a manuscript in Times, an enumerated outline, a full outline, manuscript Courier, Times, modern outline document, paperback in different sizes, proof copy, script, vellum export, and then down at the bottom, there's a plus sign, which means that you could set up your own custom export. If you had a way, if you were maybe doing a tarot deck, you could set it up for tarot deck size. There's a way to customize it so that you can assign layouts to sections. You can assign heading formatting, text formatting, quote formatting. On the right pane, you can see all those check boxes. It's showing that I was intending to export my whole manuscript when I was in this process to screenshot this. And then on the far right, you can export it to print it, create a PDF, rich text, Microsoft Word, and all of those other types of files. So I know that's a lot, and I want to pause here for a second to let you digest that, but also ask any questions. This is how last week I sent my file to our local copy shop and printed it and bound it so I could edit. And this is how I did that. So if you just want to write, you want to write your manuscript, you can click the compose button at the top right in the initial menu that we were looking at, and you'll get this big black screen with a file in the middle, so you can just write without the clutter. So we're almost to the end of what the presentation is, and then we can get into that actual file. But my favorite features, I love the binder. I just think it's really easy to organize and move information around. You can have files outside the binder for photos, audio files, research you need to do. For a long time, I had a file called miscellaneous paragraphs, things that I had written that I knew I wanted to put somewhere, but I didn't know where. You can have those. I love the snapshots feature, which I showed you, which is in the inspector mode. I love being able to customize the icons. I like using the tags and status, which is also in the inspector. I like the statistics and I like the search feature. So those for me are definite selling features as to why I would use Scrivener, or I do use Scrivener and would recommend it to anyone else that is writing a manuscript. If you're writing a blog, I wouldn't necessarily do it, but you can have unlimited Scrivener files within your subscription, or actually it's not a subscription, it's a one-time fee. So here are some resources. These are in the resource guide that I'm happy to send you if you fill out the survey. There are free themes and templates and some cheat sheets on how to customize your folders and text. This Scrivener is $49 from Literature and Latte is the company that offers Scrivener. And if you go to tinyurl.com and use VC Scrivener, then like I said at the beginning, I get a few dollars as an affiliate. But again, no pressure. I love Scrivener and I am sharing this because I love it and I think it's really useful as a writer. And then if you found this information today helpful, I would love it if you would subscribe to my blog at valeriecantella.com. And I'm going to get out of here. This is how to connect with me. You can email me at valerie@valeriecantella.com, on Instagram, Valerie J. Cantella. And then the survey is tinyurl.com/Scrivener survey. I'm hoping that maybe someone caught, I had put it at the top of the chat, but maybe someone else can put it into the chat again for me. And we'll get out of here and we'll go to my real folder. Wow, it's so nice to see this view of real faces and not just see my presentation.
Valerie, can I ask a question?
Please.
When you mentioned before, if you just want to use it for composing and you showed us the screen, can you choose what font and size?
So let me move this down. So can you see my dollhouse manuscript screen?
Yes, yes,
If you go up here where it says compose,
right.
yes, you can customize everything about this.
Okay, just on that top toolbar where it says Times New Roman.
Yes,
Under
let's go
quick
back.
search. Yeah.
And you
okay.
can actually
The
set
same
this
word.
exactly. And you can set up preferences.
Will it stick each time you come on? Will it default to what you originally set it at?
Yes, if you set it up in this preferences menu up here, Scrivener preferences,
Right.
there are lots of different ways you can customize it
Okay.
and tell what kind of formatting you want. If you want indents, Helvetica, 12 point, you can set styles. So this is where you may want to use a theme or a template, where if you find a template that someone else has created that you like, you can use their same template, but you can also customize your own.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure. Would someone remind me what else I said I would share from my native file, if you're interested? So this, I'm just at the top where you hover over that gray bar, it says 48,971 words. My goal had been originally 65,000 words, but I had 65,000 and I've edited it down because I think it's better. So that's one of the ways you can use it.
You were going to go over the inspector.
Yes, so let's click over here. Whoops. So if you click on if the inspector is open and you click on it, it closes. So I'm going to open it up. So this is my inspector and I'm in the snapshot tool with the camera. So I can take a snapshot of this. You can click, so the way you would, so I'm in chapter 17, I clicked on the file and it creates a snapshot. And then I can compare it and it will tell me everything I've changed about it, which for this one, I know it's not very helpful because I copied and pasted this out into I believe it was in Word. And then I pasted it back in. So everything is changed with one item being changed. Down here at the bottom, if I wanted to add a label, this happens to all be about my son. So I could add the label Nick. I could go up here to the outline mode and I could add labels. And I could see this one's about Nick, this one's about me, this one's about my mom. If I wanted to search the whole project, I could look for all the labels. So chapter 15, I know is primarily about Nick. I could add a label for each of those other chapters as well. And then this PWA, this is my crazy editing process or writing editing. So a first draft, a revised draft, then I put it in Pro Writing Aid. Then I read it aloud, then I put it through Pro Writing Aid again. Then I send it to CW, then I revise it, then I send it to Pro Writing Aid again. Then it's revised by JC. Then I send it off to the professional editor. I probably need to add a few more steps in here after the professional editor, but I haven't gotten there yet. But I like it because then I can see on the status bar exactly where I am with each of the chapters.
Wow, that's a lot.
Well, it just helps me keep track of where I am. I want to be able to send my professional editor the most well done version of what I'm doing so that when she's reading it, she can focus on the concepts and the flow as opposed to grammatical errors that I may make.
Yeah, it's very efficient.
So does anyone else have questions? Anything else you want to see in the live version?
I do.
Yes,
Sorry,
go ahead, Karen.
I was speaking and I didn't realize I muted myself. So I really like how you set up the different editing sections in there, so you kind of keep track of where you're at. How did you do that in Scrivener?
So let me close out of here and I'm going to show you what happens when you open Scrivener from the beginning. And so you really get an idea. Let me share this again. So can you see this where it says project templates?
Yes.
Okay. So this is when you double click Scrivener and you're ready to go, you can click on getting started and they have this interactive tutorial.
Okay.
They also have the user manual and they have video tutorials. I find there are a couple of YouTube videos that are about 20 minutes long and I listen to those while walking my dog. And that's how I learned Scrivener at the beginning. Super quick and easy. Scrivener is very robust, but just remember, like Kelly Notara says, there's so much in Scrivener she doesn't use because it's more than you need to know. So I did this presentation hoping that it would be what you need to know to get started today. And then if you want to discover all the awesome elements, you can. But here they have all these templates that you can choose from. And if you open up one of these, it will give you different setups. So for example, you saw my nonfiction formatting. I actually downloaded a 30 chapter nonfiction template for free from Scrivenerville, which is one of the links on the resource guide that I'll send you. And it already had it all set up for me. But if I hadn't done that, you would just click on nonfiction. We'll call it test and create. It'll think for a second and it will get you back to here. So then you're on chapter. You want to add another chapter. So you just go up here. I'm going to get back to this. Can you guys see the Scrivener window? Because it's telling me that sharing is paused.
It looks like it's thinking on my end.
Okay.
Yes, we're on project templates image.
Oh, but yeah, so I'm on the next slide. So let me click here and see because Scrivener is, okay, I'm going to stop share for a second. Technology is wonderful until it's not. And now you should be seeing the actual Scrivener file. Are you seeing that?
Yes.
Okay, so this just says chapter. I can add another chapter by going up here to add plus, and that added a text file. But if I wanted to add another folder, I would just go like that. This could be chapter, if I can spell it correctly. So everything let me just compress this for a second. Everything that is the manuscript, front matter and back matter, is part of your manuscript. These other 3 sections, notes, ideas, research, those are not part of your manuscript. And that's where you store things. Like where I said I had the folder of paragraphs to include, I put those under ideas, and research, I put some pictures in there to inspire me. The back matter is where I have my acknowledgements and citations. And then it also helps you with your title page and table of contents, and then your full manuscripts here. And you can delete, like if you don't want to forward, you just delete it. If you want to customize this, you just click on the folder and right click, and you go down here to change icon, and you can choose from any of those icons, or I believe you can actually, I think you can, yeah, you can make a custom icon if you go up to the top, which to me, I don't really need to do custom icons, but you can change the color of your book. You can do characters or photos of characters, flags. So that part is super customizable. You can change the status. This is their default status process. So to do, in progress, first draft, revised, done. This is where
And that's where you went down and edited it and added your own steps.
Correct.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Yeah. And then the label here, they just assigned them colors, but you just click edit and you put your different fields in here that are helpful to you. So like I said, I spend most of my time in this mode, the compose mode, which looks blank because this is a dummy file, but doesn't have any text in it. But you can use those other 2 modes as much as they're helpful to you. Is there anything else that I can show you, or questions? Are you totally overwhelmed? Was this helpful?
Very
Very
helpful.
helpful.
Yes, so helpful.
Yes, it's very helpful. I have one question. I have put like a reference into the manuscript, into the chapter, and then I went to the right side and I copied it and put it in there. And I thought that's a standalone thing on the right side. But when I deleted it from the manuscript part of it, then it also got deleted in the notes. You know
In
anything about
Scrivener it did?
that? Pardon me?
You were doing that in Scrivener?
Yeah, I have Scrivener.
So that's interesting because the notes are supposed to be, well, so I have actually not, I used notes in a different way, but, and this isn't allowed, let me get into a section here.
I just thought it was to stand alone on itself, and if I deleted something in the main manuscript that it shouldn't be deleted on that side, but for some reason it was, and I don't know what I did wrong.
Yeah, it's interesting. And so I'm in here, but it's not allowing me to click on any of these icons because I think this really light gray thing means that I should be able to add a footnote, which means that unless I delete the text, if you delete the text that the footnote is associated with, maybe that's why it deleted it.
It does do that. I agree. If you delete the text of it in your document, it deletes the footnote that you put in over there that went with it.
Yeah,
Which would make sense because then there's nothing for the footnote to be associated with.
Yeah.
So that's why if you wanted to, so say, for example, this is the reference. You could put I don't know what the appropriate thing is, but if you put a number here and then you created a back matter text file that was citations, and then you put 1 and whatever the citation text, then you wouldn't lose it. Because if the concept that you're referencing is still within the chapter, you still may want a citation.
yes,
I don't know if that's helpful.
yes, very helpful.
So one of the questions yesterday was about audio files, text to files, and I'm going to shut this and stop sharing for a minute so I can see you. So there is not an option within Scrivener to transcribe that I found, but there were a couple of options to transcribe it in Word, and then you could import it into Scrivener. So that may work if you are someone, I think the comment came up yesterday related to channeling. So if you are channeling and you just wanted to talk in and then it could transcribe it and then you can import it or copy it into Scrivener, that's a way to integrate it. And I can send those links. I know I sent them out yesterday. I didn't do a ton of research, but I thought maybe it would help people get started. Anything else I can do for you, Claire?
Yes, sorry, I missed some of what you said. One of my daughters just texted to say that she and her partner or boyfriend bought a house.
Oh, how
a
exciting.
condo. And so I missed some of what you said. One thing, we can import from Word an existing document and then keep on working on it in Scrivener.
Yes.
Okay. And are the functions for editing text similar to Word? And I'm thinking, for example, of the widow orphan control, where you don't want half of a sentence, like one line of a sentence on the next page.
Yes, I am almost positive it's within Scrivener.
Okay.
Yeah, because obviously we don't want that.
Yes. This is great.
Well, I'm happy to stay on for a few minutes if anyone else has questions, or again, if you would just do that survey is like 5 questions. And so I know if this was helpful and if I can send you it will help me so I can send you the resources and a copy of the presentation. And if we do something ever on Pro Writing Aid, we can set that up as well. And happy writing. I'm excited to meet all of you in person or in Zoom.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Valerie.